So, Troy, thanks so much for joining us here on the Canadian podcast. And, I love your story. You and I have been chatting back and forth for some time. Um, and we both share something that we deal with on a daily basis, and that is sobriety. Um, I don't know how we connected, but it was through social media, and I'm ever so grateful to get to know you through all this. And with that being said, this is our first podcast. How did you kind of get started in creating the apparel? And then we can take it back to realize what your story was here.
Sure. Apparel wise, I've always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial
Yeah.
spirit. And I had this idea creating a small company and the logo being sober. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, if this is
Yeah.
a video podcast or not. But anyway, on my shirt, you can see the logo. It says sober. And if you want to see it, you can go to my website, soberathleticware.com. So the reason I saw this, Zach, in my head, this logo, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to sell or what I wanted to do with it. Um, so, trying to get into the market at a reasonable cost, I learned about the e-commerce business and drop shipping and that type of thing. So that's kind of what got me going. The motivation behind it was completely to raise awareness, I guess, of the stigma surrounding
Mm.
the word sober and dismantling it. Um, and the reason is because I have an addiction to alcohol, and I've been in recovery for 7 years trying to quit drinking alcohol. And for me, it was a little bit of therapy to be able to get involved and tell my story, but it was also to try and raise some money to give back to the community that suffers with mental health and addictions, and those people that are in recovery like myself. So the idea to put that logo onto clothes came because I kind of dress casually and with
Yeah.
sports kind of wears with hats and t-shirts and those kind of things. That's just how I am when I'm not in work mode, or if I have to
Mm.
dress for a specific
Right.
occasion, you'll catch me in that kind of gear. So I gravitated towards that, but also to the process of how to start the business up at a minimal cost. It's just me. I run it myself. Um, so I had a lot of challenges to learn how to build a website, how to set up a Shopify account, how to, you know, do social media. I mean, for years I've been in business and I've done social media, but I'm not the person with the hands-on. I've been, giving instructions to the people who are smarter than me and
Yeah.
deal with the online platform. So I had to actually learn the back end of what I've been doing for years. When you have a team with you in business, it's much easier to be able to sit down, have a meeting, have a marketing meeting, and say, hey, this is what I want to
Hmm.
do. But to actually do it yourself was quite an eye opener. So I spent lots of hours, a lot of late nights trying to figure it out. And so here I've been in business now just over a year. I started in November of 2020. And like anything, you come out, gangbusters, and everybody wants to help. And things were rolling quite well. And then as the pandemic wore on, it's been a little more challenging to get out to people and, promote the product. We're all, you know, we we have the devices that we can at our hands, and not being able to get out and actually go to events and
Hmm.
do some grassroots marketing. I've been just kind of putting my stuff out onto social media, and I think that's how we connected about a year ago. um, I think I posted something and either I found you or you found me, and I can't remember. And we made a comment to each other and DM'd and said, "Hey, let's connect and have a chat." And we did. So we've been kind of in touch, I guess. Yeah, back and forth.
Yeah.
We've never actually physically seen
No.
each other. Like I've seen what you look like, but obviously, yeah, doing this is nice to be able to finally sit down and have a good
Absolutely.
chat with you about it. So that's kind of the background on Sober Athletic Wear and how it
What about the
started and the
logo?
motivation.
Now,
Yeah.
what I love about it, it's so simple and it says what it is, gets to the point. But why the upside down E and then the O looking like that?
To be honest with you, I was doing research on the word sober because I wanted to change the mindset behind it. So on my website, I found the original meaning from the Greek, and it talks about being level-headed. It talks about being clear of mind. It talks about being somber as far as um, taking kind of an emotion, a lack of emotion, I guess, out of things. And when you're in an addiction, it's very an emotional thing. It's a very visceral condition that you have because of mental health or because of situations that you're in or of traumas that you've suffered. The emotion behind that word can mean quite a bit for a lot of different people. And it means, and why people use alcohol or drugs or shopping or sex or porn or whatever the addiction to be, to soothe their self-medicate the issues that they've had in their lives. And at the time that was, what served them well. But when you decide that you don't want to do that anymore and you want to get your life on track and live in a more healthy way, that word for me was very, very empowering, because it meant something different to me. It meant giving up alcohol, of course, and it meant not being intoxicated and all the normal things that we would see in society and hear in society. But for me, it meant to kind of flip it upside down. So when I saw the word sober underneath it in the dictionary, is a phonetic way of writing it out, and this is what it is. It's the upside down E, and it's the little dash across the O to make the O long. So it's a grammar thing, really, but I saw it underneath the word sober, and I said, "Oh, that's my logo. That's it right there. I'm gonna just take from the dictionary, and it's nothing that's earth shattering, or I had a massive brainstorm. It made an instant connection with me when I saw it, and I thought that is a cool looking logo, and this is the word that I want to use for my company, and I want it to mean empowerment for people. I want it to mean that you can change your mindset. You can become sober of mind, body, and spirit. The three main things that connects us to everyone in this world is our physical body, our minds, and emotionally how we interact with each other, and our spirit, whatever that is for you. And so to have that word was very important to me, but I really thought the logo was kind of, to be honest with you, just cool, and I liked it, and I just thought I'm going to run with it. So I had to do a little, graphic design stuff to try and get it from, because you can't just type in the way this is and then generate a logo. So I had to figure it out. Anyway, it came out great, and I like it. So that's what it is. But it also, I liked it because it wasn't spelt, well, it is spelt the way, but it doesn't look like it normally would look. So I wanted to start conversation. So if someone's wearing this shirt out in public, first of all, they're going to ask you, like, what's up with the sober? Like, are you in recovery, or you have an issue? And then second question I would hope that they ask is, why is it spelt like that? That's kind of odd. Like, what does that mean? And then it would give people an opportunity to either talk about their story or share the mission of what Sober Athleticware is to dispel this negative connotation towards the word sober. And the more people that I could get a shirt on or a hat on, the more the grassroots knowledge of, hey, we're trying to change this word and make it into a positive thing. People getting sober is actually phenomenal. It's a phenomenal thing. Even if, you're addicted to shopping because, you have low self-esteem or whatever, and you just need to buy stuff to make yourself feel better. I had a lot of frustrations and anxieties and depressions in my life, but mostly it came out of frustration. And then I would get angry at things. And then to calm my brain, I used alcohol to calm myself down. And I didn't have the tools in my tool belt to know of any other way to do it. I didn't have a mentor in my life or an example in my life of sharing feelings. I grew up in an era where you just sucked it up and didn't talk about things, and you weren't a man if you talked about intimate details of how you're feeling, or if you felt depressed or upset, someone would probably smack you on the back of the head and say, snap out of it, let's get back to work, get doing what you're doing. And that's probably,
or have another beer.
Yeah, or have another beer, let's drink it away, sort of thing. 100%. And I had an excuse to have a beer every day. I had a great day at work, and I've been in sales my whole life, so my team would be like, okay, we hit a home run today. Let's go celebrate with a drink. Oh, we haven't had a good week. We've been, no, it's too bad. Let me get you guys a drink because, we've been down a little bit.
Yeah.
Or if you're playing sports, the way it is, you get together with the guys and you have a beer. Everything revolved around
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Was
So
it one drink you'd have, or was it you couldn't stop when you start drinking and you get hammered?
sometimes I would stop,
Yeah.
but not always. Um, so yeah, I mean, the reason that I quit drinking was mostly because my wife brought it to my attention that I was drinking far too much, and she was right. And I knew it, and I joked around even before we talked about it 7 years ago. Um, I would joke with my friends and say, "Oh, you're going to have another drink," and I would be like, "Yeah, I'm an alcoholic. I can't
Hmm.
stop. I'm going to keep going." So that was when I was, my late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
And as I got married and had kids, and I was working a ton, and my mom passed away when she was pretty young, and I had a lot of things going on in my life.
How old was your mom, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, she passed away when she was 67. I was, I don't think I was 38 years old when my
Wow.
mom passed away, which is, it is what it is. Cancer will get you, and that's
Yeah.
just the way things go.
Were you
But I
were
didn't.
you very close to your mom?
Yeah, my mom was my person. She was my go-to in my life. I always, my dad's a very quiet guy, so we didn't have a lot of intimate talks. But my mom would be the one that I would go to if I had any big decisions to make in my life, or if I had any advice I needed, or if I needed to be straightened out. She wasn't afraid to do it. She
Yeah.
was a lot of tough love from her, but everything that she did for me was out of love. Even though she was really tough on me, I don't know where I would be without her, because I probably would have been more of a disaster than uh, I was in certain points of my life of making poor decisions and things like that.
Hmm.
So um,
This year is going to be 3 years from me and my mom, or my mom and
yeah,
I. So she died in her mid 50s, 55.
it's tough. Yeah,
Oh, and she was my person. Like,
yeah,
so I understand that feeling and being lost without them
yeah,
at first and finding
yeah.
your way again. And yeah, you have your significant other, your partner, but mom
Right.
was mom.
Absolutely. Yeah. No matter what, that unconditional love, no matter what. Um, I don't know if you have children, but I have two daughters, and one's 19 and one's 16. And you learn what unconditional love is when you have kids, and what you'll do for them uh, is limitless, really. So yeah, I miss that, but a lot of that's the reason, and then I really just started coping in life because I was working so much and I was exhausted, and I was didn't have I had unresolved issues as far as mourning her. I was in opening a business at the time, and I was hiring people, and I was spending a lot of time in the office, and
Obviously, something like that so
yeah,
pivotal and traumatic. Was
yeah.
that was it part of the feelings of abandonment and survivor's guilt, or what was it?
Yeah, I had a little bit a different kind of guilt from it, to be honest with you, Zach. The night that she passed away, we've been at the hospital all week, and it was a Friday night, and I just said to my brother and my dad, "No, let's go back to your place. Let's have a barbecue. Let the kids run around." And our kids were young at the time; they were infants, between 1 and 3, 4 years old, and just take it easy, and then we'll go back tomorrow, and then we'll start fresh again. Well, of course, she passed away that evening, and I felt so guilty about not being at her bedside and so forth. But one of um, my uncles told me that, which gave me relief. I didn't know. I just he mentioned this to me a couple of years ago when I was visiting him down in Nashville. He lived down in the States, and he said, "Troy, she was waiting for you guys to leave to pass because she didn't want to pass when you guys were around." And that's the type of woman she was. She didn't want to put that on you and have you there. And when it was the right time, and it's funny when I hear stories of people, most times people get a call in the morning or the middle of the night that
Yeah.
someone's passed. And I think even though, dying is obviously a traumatic experience for the family and the person actually going through it, and knowing that they're having cancer and they're in certain situations, they still have the mindfulness to take into consideration their family. And I think it's an unbelievable thing to even in that time
I think it's something to
to
do
go
with
through.
comfort as well. You know, as human
Yeah,
beings, that's at the end of our lives
yeah,
when we know, and we hope
yeah,
that we can go in peace without
right,
everyone around breaking.
right. And
It's
that was
already
my
hard
mom.
enough.
She was the rock of the family, so she wanted to be that till the end.
Yeah.
And
Do you
yeah,
still think about her a lot, Troy?
all the time. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. Especially in situations where I'm thinking, what am I going to do here, or what direction should I take?
Hmm.
Just having to have someone to bounce that advice off of
Hmm.
that's impartial. I mean, I would do that with my wife and my friends, but at the same time, there was no advice that I trusted more really than with my mom.
If you had a day to spend with her, I'm sure you have so much that you'd want to catch up with. Eh? And do you ever feel
Yeah.
that you would you will see her again one day, and you will?
Oh, I do.
I
I
do.
have a faith that says that to myself, and I believe it. Um, yeah, I hope. I wish the one day that I did wish that I had with her, I would come clean. To be honest with you, on a lot of stuff that I kept from her and spared her from because I didn't want to hurt her.
Hmm.
And so uh, I think I would have had a very, very candid conversation with her and just truly let her know how much she meant to me and what influence that she had in my life, and that influence continues daily, even though she's not here. That I look to her life and how she lived, and how I can mirror that in my life.
Hmm.
Now, you're always harder on yourself, and you don't think that you're living up to what your parents would do for you
True.
because you look at them as heroes, and that type of lens you see them in.
Hmm.
So,
It's pretty
but
cool. I
I
mean,
yeah.
and I strongly believe, she's watching over you. My mom's watching over me. They're around us at all times. But it's funny as we go on without them that some of the things they used to say to us or how they acted, it just starts coming in the ways we move through life, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a saying that I used to I don't even take credit for it because I tell
Yeah.
my kids that, when you're wishing this and wishing that and wishing that. My mom said to me so many times, Troy, don't wish your life away. Just take it. It was almost mindfulness before mindfulness was introduced to me. And it's don't wish your life away, because you're going to get to that age and you're going to look back and go, how did I get here so quick? And we all wanted to be 16 to get a driver's license, and we all wanted to be this age as an adult to make our own decisions, and we all wanted to go away to school, and we wanted to meet somebody, blah blah blah. Now I just turned 54, and I look back and go, holy crap, how did I get here? My daughter's in university this year, first year university.
Hmm.
Big events like that happen in your life, and you think, and then you start judging your age by how old your kids are getting. It's really
Yeah.
it's so true.
Do you feel 54?
Some days I do.
The
Some
colder days
days I
hurt.
don't. The body feels more 54 than the mind. The mind is not nowhere close to 54. I always tell everybody I'm going to grow up someday. I'm going to mature someday. But yeah, the body does some days feel 54. But mentally, no, I don't. I really, absolutely, I can't believe that I am. I don't behave like I'm 54. I don't think. I'm not sure, but
When you
uh,
look at your younger self, what would you tell it to yourself? When you got married or when the kids were young, mom was around, what would you tell your younger self if you could right now?
oh, I've been putting into practice, Zach, to be honest with you, in the last 8 months of mindfulness and meditation, and really focusing on living in the moment. And I always, um, I didn't take my mom's advice very well. I was always looking ahead or behind, and that caused me a lot of depression and anxiety because I didn't live in the moment. I always was anticipating what was to come, and I was always dwelling on the past and feeling down on myself because of it. And so my advice would be is live second by second, hour by hour, day by day. And if you have a bad day today, it's okay. That one's gone. Let's fire it up tomorrow and get back at it, and do a better job tomorrow. There's always tomorrow,
Hmm.
and let it go. Let it go. live it in the moment is what it is. All the cliches you want to pull out.
Mhm.
I think
The power of
like
letting it go, is that tough?
it is. It isn't anymore. It was for me for a long time. Well, 53 years because I just learned how to start to let it go, and I started doing meditation and mindfulness practices back in September on the advice of a friend that I've never met. It's a radio sports guy, Rod Peterson, has a Rod Peterson show. He does every day at noon Eastern, and I got introduced to him. And anyway, he knows my situation and has seen my logo, and we've been kind of like friends over uh, through social media. And he had said, "Troy, why don't you try meditation?" And I did. Change my life um, because I really viewed myself as a bad person growing up, and I'll tell you why. The reason why, because I grew up. One thing I did, I grew up in a very conservative house, and they're very strict. Um, uh, I don't really want to just strict rules, and a very culturally uh, not religious. Well, it is religious, so I'll just call it. It is what it is. And I just found I couldn't live up to what I thought was the expectations of that situation, and I could only interpret it as a kid the way that I did, and so I was really down on myself, and it was tough. Um, so I held on to that stuff and harbored it for
Hmm.
many years, and until I let it go and just decided I am who I am, and forgive all of the stuff that I held on to that I shouldn't have. Um, and now I'm at peace.
Are you truly at peace?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Took
at
a,
peace. Yeah.
like you said, it took that many years to find it.
Took a long time. My first recollection of making that decision though was when I was about 30. I hadn't heard about mindfulness or meditation or any of that type of thing, but I had to come to a point where I accepted me for who I was. Uh, but I had already developed so many bad habits in my life at that time and self-medicating and so forth that I had to relearn how to live in a healthy way. And
How do we get that far as human beings? I mean, nobody wakes up and says, I want to fuck my life up.
yeah,
Nobody
I
says, I
think
want to do drugs. Nobody says, I want to
yeah,
drink like this. It's does
right.
until it's too late. Then we look back. Is there ways that, I don't know, do we have to get to that level of extreme pain and trauma and whatever we're dealing with to realize what we were just covering up with the mask, which was those substances?
Yeah. Um, I would say it's going to be about education and mentoring. I think those are two powerful things. First of all, we teach kids sex education and health and so forth, but we don't teach them anything about mental health, or very little. I remember maybe learning maybe an hour in my gym class through high school about mental health and talking about it, but really understanding cognitive behavioral therapy and diving in, not on a deep level for kids, obviously that's too in depth for them, but to give them tools to understand, hey, I'm not feeling great, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling angry today, to be able to express that, um, to their family or to somebody in authority that they feel comfortable with. But I think there's such a stigma that still applies that, even though I would wish that it's got to a point where we're not telling people to suck it up anymore and move on with life, to a point where we can be kind to each other and gentle and loving to each other, and understand that it's okay to talk about this stuff. You can be tough, and you can be still um, powerful, and you can be aggressive, and still be kind, and still be gentle, still be a nice person, you know
You
for
don't
my
have to be a
business.
jerk.
You don't have to be a jerk, and people don't want to deal with you that way. I mean, for my business uh, career, I've learned that yeah, you got to be tough in some situations, and you got to be aggressive, and if you want to get what you want to get, you have to perform and do all those
Hmm.
things. But at the same time, being kind to people is going to be more of a team leader being
Yeah.
understanding, all those type of things. But I think learning that, I didn't learn that as a kid. I had to learn that as an adult. And I wish that someone would have took me aside and said, you may have these feelings. It's okay to talk about them. Don't be ashamed that you're feeling that. Don't feel
Mhm.
guilty that you feel that way. Um, and then, having mentor programs where people could come in and give chats to classrooms, or I don't know, but those are the two things that come to mind right away for me is education and mentoring,
Mhm.
and at an early age, to get kids in to change society's perspective on mental health.
Right.
And I think, and honestly, Zach, the people that I've met in my recovery, I went into a treatment program in November for 4 weeks. I had a relapse
Yeah. I
in
remember
my
we were talking then.
yeah, in my drinking, on October 4th. I had a very bad day, and October 5th, I made a decision to really make a change. So I said, I can't keep lying to myself and having these little relapses.
Yeah.
And
How
that day
long
was
were you sober for before October 4th?
I don't know, to be honest with you, because I didn't keep track, because I was too afraid to keep track, because I failed so many times. I didn't want to keep a day. I just wanted to go day by day at that time in my life, because that even the thought of not ever having a drink again was so overwhelming to me that it brought anxiety to my life. And so at the time, I was just trying to get by every day,
Hmm. And what
to
did you
not
do?
to
Did
not
you
have a drink.
just go out to a pub or out with your wife and say, "I'm gonna drink tonight"? Is that kind of like how you planned it, or was it premeditated, where you said you wanted to go out to drink, or it just happened out of the
Yeah, it
blue?
wasn't premeditated.
No.
I was actually, I went play golf with some of my friends, and all of my friends know that my goal is to not drink anything, zero. And they know that I have a drinking issue and I want to resolve it, and that's my plan. So when I'm with them, I don't drink. They won't even let me. They'd tackle me if I
Hmm.
tried to order a beer from the golf cart, or they'd throw it on me. I don't know. They would do something to me. They wouldn't allow it to
Good
happen,
friends.
because good friends. Because I've told them, I said I can't do this, boys, and I don't want to do this. So anyway, I don't know. I think I got a ticket that day on the way to golf, because I was going through a school zone and I wasn't paying attention. I was a little bit late, and maybe that had triggered me a bit. But anyway, on the way home, I was just feeling crap, and I drove to the local liquor store in the town that we were at, and I got some drinks. And then on the way home, I stopped at a bar, and then yeah, I went home, and then it's just not a good scene.
Did your
So
wife tell you, "Hey Troy, what are
yeah,
you doing?"
yeah, 100%, yeah. And it was like, okay, what happened this time?
Yeah.
What happened this time? That happened. And so that night, we had a discussion, and I emailed my buddies to tell them what happened, and I apologized to them because I said I let them down. I did this, and I did it after golf, and I know I shouldn't have done that. And one of my friends, his dad is an alcoholic, and he actually texted my wife and said, "Would you tell Troy? Would he consider going into a treatment center, because that he needs it? Like, he's tried everything, and the only way that I know that it's worked in my life, seeing it from his dad,
Hmm.
was to go and get help."
Did you go
And
to AA? Had you tried AA? Had you tried AA?
he had,
Alcoholism.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he had tried it. He's a well, he's been sober for 30 years now, but he went to AA. He went to treatment 3 times before it actually took for him. So anyway, I did. I agreed I would go, and so the option for me, the best option for me in my life, and was to do an outpatient program, and I did that for 4 weeks, so Monday to Friday, 4 weeks,
Yeah,
and
what does it mean when someone goes to treatment for the listeners, and if they're struggling, what were some of the things that you guys would do every day, such as exercises to help get through it all?
yeah, so I went to a program, was called Intensive Day Treatment for Addiction. So I live in Ontario, and there was a program that became available at my local hospital, that I went to at William Osler Hospital. And so we worked through a bunch of things. And it's funny because I have my book right in front of me. So I'm going to kind of just rhyme off a couple of things for you.
Sure.
But the first week was cognitive behavioral therapy. So we went through all that, learning about unhelpful thinking patterns,
Hmm.
how your mind works, really. So we dwell on things that come into our mind. And the most most of the time, things that come into our mind are negative. They're not positive thoughts. So we dwell on them and then we act on them in well, irrational ways or in unhealthy ways to cope. And this is based on, of course, people there who are trying to get over their DOC. So as their drug of choice, if it's whatever it would be. So you just fill in the blank. Um, so we would, and that's the thing, Zach, that was very important for me was quitting drinking was like not recovery. Quitting drinking is day one, first hour. You've decided I'm going to quit drinking. Okay, but why are you drinking? So what I wanted to know was the psychological, subconscious reasons that drove me to do what I was doing, and that's this particular program was derived that way because we would go into our feelings, we would go into what um, habitual ways we were thinking, and I wish I could rhyme them all off, but without reading my book, I can't. But
No,
all
no,
I
no
know
worries
is
for sure.
I learned at the deepest core of myself why I was driven to uh, self medicate. And for me, it was I lived in shame. So the difference between guilt and shame: guilt is I did something wrong, and shame is I am wrong, or I am, or guilt is I made a mistake, and shame would be I am a mistake. Um, and that was the very last day of our treatment. We talked about guilt and shame, and there was a real, the biggest eye opener for me, because I had to let go of all of the shame that I had put on myself, um, because of how I interpreted the world and how I interpreted what I
Right.
heard throughout my life. Now, someone else could have been in my situation and could have been okay, maybe. I don't know. But I just know for me, I can only speak for myself and my own experience and what I heard and what I felt and what I harbored for my whole life in my heart and in my chest and how I felt. Um, but to answer your question, to go into treatment is really to get honest as well. If anyone needs help and they decide that they want to go to AA, you're going to hear the phrase "to thine own self be true," and it's so absolutely true, because if you continue to do what you're doing, you're only lying to yourself. And if you can lie and sneak around, and I lied and I snuck around and I got away with things, and people didn't know what I was doing, especially my family. And um, until I came to that realization, October 5th, I'm only lying to myself, and I'm never going to get better until I actually do this for me and not to appease other people. That's when the magic happened for me, and my complete attitude changed. So when I went to treatment, I was a sponge. I
Mm.
was there to soak up every morsel of knowledge that I could get to turn my life around. Some people were there because they had to be there. Some people were there because of they were in jail or they were in a program and they were mandated to go there. But I went there because I needed to change my life, and I made that decision finally. So there's various ways you can do it. There's outpatient programs. Some people do that. Some people just go to AA. Some people will go away to a facility where they absolutely have to get away from their community in their area. Maybe they have a dealer in their area that they just physically just have to get away. It's just way too easy to use or get to. So there's various ways to do it, but for me, I did the outpatient way, and this particular program was amazing. But it's really surrendering, being honest, and finding the emotional, physical, and spiritual reasons behind what you do, and consciously making that decision to do it a different way
Mm.
and in a healthy way.
Right. Well, I know we got to get going here soon, Troy, but what did you do, or what do you do every day to get through the day, minute by minute, hour by hour, when you're practicing mindfulness or meditation? Because oftentimes people think it's you just close your eyes and that's meditation,
Yeah,
and that's tough. It's
yeah,
hard to sit still and be with
it is.
yourself.
Yeah. Well, part of meditation is not always just to be calm. It's about awareness. So,
Mm.
for instance, there's a, like, for instance, if you're doing a body meditation, a body scan, you're trying to be focused on what you're doing. So you're looking at your big toe and you're looking at the sensations, and you travel across your toes. Then you go to the bottom of your foot and then the top of your foot, your calf, the upper leg, all those kind of things. So what you're doing is you're training your brain to be aware. And what that does is that brings that awareness into your life. So if I'm feeling triggered to have alcohol, I'm building my brain to be aware of, first of all, the physical responses. So maybe, to give an example, I would go home, driving from home, and I pass a certain liquor store that I would normally go into. Well, I'm going to have a physical response likely to that. I'm going to start maybe tasting it in my mouth, my normal drink that I have. I might start getting a little bit of, giddiness, in the sense that, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to be getting close to. So you know that feeling like you're going to get a gift
Mm-hmm.
or something. You're like, oh, I wonder what it's going to be. That little bit of a giddiness and excitement. And then to know that. And then there's the mind part, where you're breaking a habit. So you habitually make a left into the liquor store that every day to pick up whatever it is that you would take home. It's being mindful of how it's going to make you feel after, because obviously that's when depression, anxiety, guilt, shame all comes into play, because again, you've failed, again, you've let down your family, or again, you've lied. So mindfulness is really, from my experience, is rewiring my brain to be aware of all of these sensations in my body, mind, and spirit, of how it translates into my daily life and how I can use it. So another trigger for me is frustration. So I work in a sales capacity, and if I have staff and circumstances and logistics and all kinds of different things that can go wrong, I would get very frustrated. So now um, I have a technique where I can breathe for 1 minute. I'll put the phone down, I'll turn off everything, and I'll just, either for 1 to 5 minutes, shut my door to my office and just calm down and say, okay, how am I doing right now? Okay, anger, I feel you. Thanks for coming. Goodbye. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need you. And I have a little mental bucket. I literally touch my head and pretend like I'm putting it into a trash can. And then if I feel something else, whatever emotion that I'm feeling, I physically put it in the trash can. That's one of my techniques. So I
Interesting.
feel it,
Yeah.
you know. Um, how I respond is another big thing in life as well. Anger. So I would get very angry, and sometimes things would be flying out of my mouth before I would even think of what I'm doing. And then I would say, well, why am I responding so harshly to that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is just, and it's breaking old habits. It's rewiring the brain, because the brain has, I don't know, bazillion different synapses, connections, and all these things. And it's pliable, so you can actually rewire your brain as an adult,
Okay.
believe it or not. Science is showing that now, that if you do these techniques, you can actually undo what's been done as a child. So the funny thing is, one of the meditations that we did in my treatment was, okay, imagine a situation when you're 5 years old and you've had a traumatic experience, whatever that would be for a 5-year-old. Okay, now we're going to do it as a teenager, and do it as a teenager. And then we did it, okay, as a young adult. And then we're going to do it as, whatever age we are now. And what I learned was, I am the same person now as I was then. The only difference is I could only respond to my trauma with the capabilities I had at the time that they occurred. The key was for me now at 54 was to say, I can forgive that 5-year-old for feeling that way, because that's the tools I had in my belt at the time. I can forgive that teenager for making that decision and doing it, because that's how I got through at that time. And that's what served me at that time. And knowing that I and the other thing is too, because you take these techniques and you take them into your adulthood. So sometimes I would behave, and I'm ashamed to admit this, to be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
I would behave like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
I would have a tantrum if I got upset. Only, like a kid in the Walmart, pounding the ground. I want that toy, kind of thing. wasn't physically doing that, but I would
Mhm.
equate my response to a child, because I would fly off the handle for no reason. That's behaving in a childish way when I can change it. So I recognize that. Now I can rewire my brain to respond in a more mature way, in a more healthy way, and in a way that's going to be both beneficial to myself, because I'm going to be able to articulate my frustrations to somebody, but then also they're going to be able to receive my message in a positive manner, and they're going to help me because I've done it in that way. Whereas if I responded in a negative way, automatically people get their back up. That's just human nature to
Okay.
be responsive. So that's just one example, but it
Interesting.
really has changed my life, to be honest with you. And it's very hard, because when you're not numbing your feelings and you have to feel all the feelings all the time, every day,
Yeah.
it's very draining. It's very, very draining. And I find myself very, very tired, and my mind very tired, than compared to even when I was uh, drinking to numb that stuff, because feeling emotion is not what I'm used to doing. I repelled that. I didn't want to deal with emotion. I ate it. I ran away from it. I drank it away. I would go hide in my basement and just watch TV by myself. Whatever technique I used to get away can't work anymore. It doesn't work. It's been unhealthy. So all of these things I have to relearn, um,
Mhm.
and rewire that brain, and mindfulness and meditation has done that. So another thing is, when I wake up, I have a gratitude journal, and I write in my gratitude journal. It's called the 5 minute journal. I highly recommend it if anyone's looking
So,
for
what
something very.
exactly is a gratitude journal for the listeners? What is a gratitude
Yeah,
journal?
so the gratitude journal would be, so name three things that you're grateful for today. Then it would be, name three positive affirmations, about yourself for today. And then it would say, what would make today a great day? And then you would write that down. That's the morning session. Quickly do that. And it forces you to be grateful for something that day. It's hard after a while, because you close, you say, "Oh, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for
Mhm.
this, my house, and I have a job, and I know the normal things in life." But when you're on day three, third week, you're like, "Man, I'm grateful for a nice hot coffee in the morning when I
Yeah.
wake up." Little things, and that act of being grateful changes your mindset. Again, it's rewiring your brain to look for gratitude. That's super important, even if it's minuscule things. I was talking to someone, just last week, and they said they ran out of stuff to be grateful for. So they're a coffee fanatic. They said, "I'm grateful for the person who actually made the cup that I can pour my coffee into." And it sounds ridiculous to say that, but at the same time, the act of being grateful changes you, because you open your mind to the
Mhm.
possibilities of gratitude and being, I hate the word happy because it's so vague, but to be content, to feel joy, to feel, pride. I don't know. All of these things come out when you're grateful, and
Let
you
the
see
burdens at ease.
yeah. But it changed the way I look at other people too, and I see the little things that they do for me, and I'm very grateful for them now. The little tiny things that they do, or what they bring to my life, or how they speak to me, or how they encourage me. And by doing gratitude journaling, it really has changed my attitude, day to day. I was going to go to my treatment. During my treatment, I had a very emotional day. We talked about, and a very, quite a few days that were emotional, because we're diving into really deep, deep stuff.
Right.
And I didn't want to go the next day. I was so drained, Zach. I was just like, I can't go another day and talk about this stuff. But I got my gratitude journal out, and I did my meditation, and it changed my day, my morning. I went in there and I said, today I'm going to go in there and I'm going to be double the sponge that I normally am, because I'm going here to become a better person. I'm going here to change my life. I'm going here to be a better husband, a better dad, a better friend, a better employee, a better boss. All those kind of things, mean a lot to me, because those are the values that I hold in my life. And when I wasn't living to my values, um, you become, you hate yourself almost, in the sense that you're not living to your potential, and it's very harmful to your mindset. And my mindset's changed quite a bit since putting these practices into place
Yeah. You
and
become
getting
bitter
treatment.
and resentful. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I struggle. I mean, I'm not perfect. I still have days where I have to shake my head and say, oh man,
Mm-hmm.
why am I feeling like that? But at least I'm mindful of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before I would just say, F it, I'm going to get a drink, or F it, I'm going to go sit in the basement by myself. I can't deal with anybody right now.
You know, one thing people don't talk about is when you start helping yourself, you don't need to be hard on yourself. You do, but you don't. You
Right.
know,
I would say 100%, because you're really, for when you get into this place of forgiveness, you really have to forgive yourself too, because one of the things that I beat up myself was on what I had already talked about, is using techniques that I would have used as a younger person, and now, but my counselors have told me, my addiction counselors said, listen, everything that you did served you at the time of when you did it. And it was because were in survival mode. And the only way you knew how to survive at that time with the tools you had was to do what you did. It's okay. It's okay what you did. You got by it. You're here today. You survived. You're here now sitting with me, and I'm telling you there's alternatives. And if you're open to that, then that's okay. We're going to change it, and we're going to work on it, and we're going to do all these things and practice it. And then you can forgive yourself for all those things, because as I mentioned, when we went through that mindfulness meditation and looked at certain times, I realized that I only could have handled those traumas or those things the way that I did because of where I was in my life and the tools I had at that time. And that's okay. I can forgive that now.
do you do your gratitude journal only in the mornings, or do you do it in the afternoons or evenings or once a day?
I do it in the morning and before I go to bed. The reason is because those are the times I'm free, but also, um, I
Is it
think
the same
starting
questions? Same questions?
same questions every day. Yeah. That's one particular thing. You don't have to go by that. That's just the reason that I did that is because it was a 5 minute journal, and that's all I could commit to at the time. I didn't know if I could stick with it. So I was recommended this particular journal called the 5 minute journal, because literally it takes 5 minutes. Unless you dwell on things, you don't need to do that. This is something that it's more of a practice, as I mentioned, to give yourself a pat on the back by
Mm-hmm.
with positive affirmations. And it's also to put your mindset in a mindset of gratitude before you walk out the door.
Do you get worried
Uh,
though? Someone's gonna find your journal and read it?
no, I don't know.
No.
The reason is because I'm not ashamed anymore of what I write. If it's something, I've put my life out on social media,
Yeah.
and the reason is because I want to be held accountable. But I'm in this game of having sober Athleticware and doing things and coming on podcasts and talking. And I documented my journey in treatment. I did 20 days, very quite long videos, actually some were 6 minutes and some were
Yeah.
20 minutes. I told my day, and they're
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. You can go look at them. It's under Sober Athleticware on
Yeah.
YouTube page. And I had to come clean. The only way I could get where I am today was to come clean with myself and put it out into the universe what I wanted, and to hold myself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
When you look at
anybody in the world who wants to know my story, it's there.
it's there, but
It's out
what
there. Yeah.
what is the stigma around being sober? Why is there a like if you become sober, people think, "Oh shit, what happened to you? You must have
Yeah.
fucked up your life."
Absolutely.
Or they'll start
100%.
talking to you a little slower than usual
Yeah.
because they
100%.
think there's something wrong with the guy. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
or the gal. But
yeah.
I think it's beautiful to be sober. I don't think. I mean, I've never felt this much peace in my life than I do now. So what's bad? The
Nothing.
social
It's
norm?
culture. It's culture. Yep. It's culture. I was watching uh, on Facebook Live last night. There's a show called The Recovery Hour that this gentleman Rod Peterson does, and there's another gentleman who's on there. His name is Rand Teed. He's
Right.
a very well known gentleman in the recovery world. He had a teacher come on talking about doing dry February, and she, had no intention of being sober, has no,
Yeah.
she doesn't have an issue with alcohol, whatever. So he wanted her to come on and talk about it. And without prompting her, he said, well, what about this and what about that? And how do people respond? And she was very fearful to tell people that she had quit drinking for the month of February because of the stigma surrounding it. Oh, do you have a problem? Oh, why are you drinking? But it's the only disease that you have to tell people or give an excuse of why you're not doing it.
Mhm.
Um,
So true.
why would I want to put poison into my body?
Yeah.
Um, First of all, for even health reasons, now that I look at it, the link to cancer and the link to all kinds of different things, mental health issues. Um,
Well, Troy, if you and I
it,
go out to
yeah,
eat at a restaurant
yeah,
and we order our meals, and then I look at you and I say, "Well, Troy, why didn't you order that off the menu?
right,
Why did you order what you did?"
right,
I don't give you flack for it. I don't judge you for not ordering this salad versus that salad.
right,
But
right,
if you and I were both drinking and I decided not to drink that day,
right.
there's an awkward moment there. And why is
Absolutely.
that there? Yeah.
That's a great question. I mean, I think it really just boils down to cultural
Hmm.
norms and cultural expectations. And in a Canadian society, it's hard to go anywhere without it being a part of life. Through business situations, if I go to a conference, there's always a cocktail hour.
Hmm.
If I go to a business lunch, not so much anymore, times have changed, but in the past, it would be, you're going to have a drink with your lunch with that person
Yeah.
and discuss business. If you're with your friends and you're in a backyard swimming, what do? Have a case of beer. Um, if you're playing hockey and after, there's always a case thrown in the middle of the room.
Oh yeah.
One guy is responsible to bring the beer for that particular week. That's just the way, life is. And yeah, there's a stigma surrounding not drinking, and people are afraid to say it. And I was too. I was a little bit nervous about it because I didn't want people to know, because I thought they were going to look down on me because I wanted to get sober. But the reason behind getting sober is the real stigma. What went on in your life? You don't have control. You're not strong enough. Like, you can't just say no. All these different things will come up in people's minds of why. Oh, did you have a bad childhood? Did you, whatever it would be. I'm, all these kind of things that would come into people's minds. Uh,
And again, we can't control other people's thoughts, can we?
we can't. It's really, Zach. It comes to the real decision that um, you just really have to not care what people
Yeah.
think, and that comes with time and maturity too. And I would think, if I tried to quit drinking when I was younger, it would be hard, very, very hard. I ran in social circles that all my friends drank, and they all some were social, but the majority of us that hung out, we were out to get drunk. That was our goal, on a Friday, Saturday, and even during the week.
Yeah.
It wasn't just to go out and have one drink or two drinks. Most times
It was binge.
it was binge drinking is a big issue. And I think people like myself, I think people who can hold down, like, as quote unquote, a functional alcoholic, whereas you can excel in your career, you can be a dad, you can be a husband, you can be a community member, and still have this secret life that kind of goes on. And when people would be done drinking, I would leave and then I would go drink more, so they wouldn't know the difference if I did or not. Or if I went to go get them a drink, I might have a drink at the bar extra and do a double whiskey or something like that and shoot it down quick before I went back. So they thought I had 5 drinks, but really I had 10.
Yeah.
Things like that. I would sneak in and really just lying to myself.
Sure. Troy,
Yeah.
before we get
Yep.
going now, you have a
Yep.
hat that's got a coffee on it, and I've been seeing a lot of
Yeah.
that on social media. What's that?
Yeah.
What's that about? What's that about?
Yeah. So I'm trying to expand, to be honest with you, Zach, I'm trying to get this business going, and I'm trying to get revenue streams to come in so I can start helping people. I've been working hard at this company for about a year, And a lot of what I do goes back into the cost of just actually just trying to run the company. And so this is a product I came up with. It's a drop ship. It's called Sober Up. And so I have, well, I just added some blends, but the reason that I did it is because it was kind of a play on words and kind of fun. So I thought,
Yeah.
this is something people can kind of get behind if they drink or don't drink. And to be honest with you, I don't care who buys my material, my product. If you're a drinker, you're not a drinker, and you drink it sober up because you think it's funny on a Saturday morning because you're hungover and you want to get sobered up and you buy it, that's okay. The money that I'm raising is going to go back to help people who need help. I can't control, the end user of what they're using it for, but the sober up was just, kind of a fun thing to play
That's
off of
funny.
off the
Yeah.
logo, right? So
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny, and um, and some people I ran the idea by said it was, it kind of aligned with what my brand is, and makes people think, and again, and ask questions about, why sober up, and that's what I want to do, start conversations. So yeah, I have a website, soberupcoffee.com. It goes to my Sober Athleticware page. So I have all of my product on one website.
For
And
sure.
when I get a little more savvy and time, I'll have separate websites. And
No problem.
when I meet the right person that can help me do all these kind of things and wants to join me in my journey, I'm still looking for that kind of person to do that. Um, so yeah, the coffee, try it. It's great. It's gourmet coffee. So when you order it, it's roasted within somewhere between 1 to 3 days after you order it,
Nice.
and then it's usually shipped out about 5 days after. And depending if you live in the States, it'll get to you a little bit quicker. If it's in Canada, it has to cross the border. So there's some issues in these days with COVID and getting held up at the border. So, all of the logistics issues that are going on in the world affects me and my product and getting it into people's hands in a timely manner. So I try to deal with as many Canadian manufacturers as I can, so people on each side of the border can get their products as fast as possible.
For sure.
So
Well,
yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate it.
my pleasure, Troy. And hopefully we'll see you have a podcast soon. That would be nice.
I'm hoping so. And
The
that's
Sober
another
Podcast.
brand. It's not going to be sober. I started another brand called the Shrug, and it's a
Oh,
play on the words the
struggle.
struggle,
Yeah,
right? So the
struggle.
struggle is real, and it's another reason that I came up with that idea is because some people don't want to wear the sober logo, and I understand why. It can be intimidating, as we talked about the social reasons why someone might not want to wear it and think, oh, are you getting sober? And they don't want to go through the hassle of that and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody can relate to the struggle. We all struggle in our life, whatever that would be. Could be anything. So
Yeah.
people who are, have mental health issues and addictions, that's my kind of lane that I run in. But it also can bring in other people too, people who have issues with food, shopping, porn, sex, social media addictions, whatever that would be that you fill your life and your void with because of the struggles that you have in your life. And so, yeah, I want to have a podcast one day called The Shrug. And the Shrug's going to be people coming on talking about issues that they've had in their life and how they've overcome their struggle and what they're doing, so they can share their story like I'm doing to encourage other people to step out of their comfort zone and change their life for the better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my business is about. That's what my coffee sales are about. And that's what Sober Athleticware is all about, is to create conversations, have people tell their stories, get rid of the shame, get rid of the stigma, and be proud to wear the sober. And if you're supporting somebody who is trying to get sober, to wear it as well, as a partner, or as a father, as a mom, as a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it would be, to show your support for people going through it as well.
Yep.
And hopefully have a conversation, someone ask you about it, and then tell them this is why we're doing it. This is what we're hoping to achieve by putting this logo out there. Yeah, so
For
that's
sure.
kind of all, my story and Cole's notes version.
I love it. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much for your time today, Troy. And hopefully one of these days we'll get together.
one of these days I'll make my way out west, or you'll be in Ontario. I'm sure we'll get together and
We'll,
we'll have a
we'll have a
coffee.
sobered up coffee.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Thanks again, Troy.
Appreciate it, Zach. Thanks for your
Sure.
time, man.